Darkness. Endless, starless void. Then suddenly a flare. A single beacon, pulsing red against the abyss. At first, it looks like a drifting distress signal. Weak, harmless, forgotten, but then, the shape emerges. A ship slides from the black like a ghost tearing through the veil. Its lines are angular, armored, built for war not for show. The Terran designation glows faintly across the hull. ISS Valiant. One ship, alone, on Dominion sensors. It barely registers as a threat. To them, Terrans are a minor species, tucked away on the spiral arm of the galaxy, survivors of skirmishes, but never real contenders in war. So when their long-range scanners pick up the lone Terran vessel, the first reaction isn't fear, it's laughter. On the bridge of the Dominion patrol frigate, Corthan's Fang. Commander Varric leans back in his chair, his fangs flashing in amusement. A single human ship enters our system. Insolence or desperation. Either wait will burn. His second-in-command grins, eyes fixed on the tactical display as the Valiant drifts forward. Her engines quiet, her weapons uncharged. Send for the fleet, Varric orders. Let's make a show of it. They dared insult us by coming alone. Let them serve as an example. Across the sector, signals ripple. Corthan warships respond, dozens of them. Engines ignite, blue plasma trails streaking across the void as they converge on the lone Terran vessel. Like wolves circling prey, their numbers grow. 5, then 10, then 20 ships forming a ring around the Valiant. The Terran ship does not move. On the bridge of the ISS Valiant, Captain Elise Ward stands, silent at the command dais. The light from enemy engines glows faintly across her face, painting her features in shifting blue. Around her, the crew is motionless, hands poised at controls, eyes fixed forward. Not one of them trembles. Her helmsman leans closer. There, encircling us, Captain. I see them, Ward replies, her tone as steady as steel. On her display, the enemy vessels multiply like insects. Their weapons are charging, glowing brighter with each passing second. In open comes, Dominion voices thunder with arrogance. Terran ship, you are trespassing in Dominion space. Power down your systems, prepare to be boarded. Resist and you will not survive. Ward doesn't respond. Her crew doesn't move. The Valiant remains still in the void, like a predator coiled in silence. Back aboard the Dominion flagship, the Corthans jeer at the silence. Cowards, one of the officers spits. They came here alone, and now they tremble. Varric bares his fangs, leaning forward. This is no warrior's defiance. This is weakness. We'll destroy them with the first volley. The rest of the galaxy will see what happens to those who dare test the Dominion. On the tactical display, the Valiant flickers a lone red dot, surrounded by a storm of blue markers. Overwhelmed, outmatched, finished before it even begins. And yet, it does not move. The Corthon fleet locks weapons. Plasma lances glow, white hot. Missile bays open with metallic precision. Targeting arrays converge on the lone human ship. The order comes. Arm the guns. The void fills with light. On the Valiant's bridge, the glow of enemy weapons reflects across the captain's eyes. Her crew awaits her command, hands hovering, near fire controls, shields, engines. But still, she waits. The enemy laughs. One ship against 20. What could it possibly do? The Valiant holds steady. The trap is closing. The predators believe they've already won, but the silence of the Terrans is not fear. It is patience. And patience, in war, is the sharpest blade. Space should be silent. But here, it feels alive with the growl of vengeance. One after another, Dominion warships slip into the system like predators drawn to blood. Blue plasma trails streak across the void, weaving toward the lone Terran battleship. First 5, then 10, then 20. From a distance, the sight is terrifying, like a pack of wolves closing in on a single wounded beast. Their hulls gleam with Dominion pride, armored fangs bared, cannons already glowing with menace. The ISIS Valiant hangs motionless in the center of it all. One ship, dwarfed by a storm of steel, on the bridge of the Dominion flagship. The Iron Howl, Fleetmaster Karvik, towers above his command crew. His voice is a rasping growl, amplified through the ship's coms. So this is Earth's defiance. One ship. His laughter booms through the fleet-wide channels, joined by the cruel chuckles of his officers. Perhaps they thought we would show mercy to such weakness. Fools. Mercy is for prey too broken to fight. He spreads his clawed hands over the tactical display. The single red Terran marker blinks in the middle of a sea of blue. Surrounded, doomed dot on the ISS Valiant. Captain Elise Ward watches the swarm closing in. The tactical map shows her crew what their eyes cannot. A wall of firepower on all sides. The communications officer stiffens as Dominion signals blast through the void. Terran vessel. The voice sneers. Your arrogance has brought you here. Power down your systems. Lower your shields. Surrender your weapons or be reduced to ash. The Valiant does not respond. Her helmsman glances sideways at her, throat dry. Captain, 20 ships. Ward's reply is calm, almost cold. 20 ships, she repeats softly, as if memorizing the number. Her eyes never leave the screen. The enemy thinks the silence is fear, but for her crew, that silence is discipline. Across the Dominion fleet, the lack of response fuels only more arrogance. On a smaller cruiser, a young Korthon officer sneers. They don't answer. Terrans must be frozen in terror. His commander bares his fangs in a grin. Good. Let them shake. Let them know the moment before death. Fleetmaster Karvik signals the fleet-wide channel again, his voice dripping with malice. Humans, this is your last warning. Kneel, and we may yet make your deaths quick. Still, the Terrans remain silent. The Valiant drifts in the void like a shadow, its guns quiet, its engines dim dot inside the Valiant. The crew works in silence, fingers hover over weapon controls, gunners check ammunition feeds, engineers run last-second diagnostics. They know the order will come, but not yet, not until their captain decides. Ward stands at the center, calm as stone. To her crew, her stillness is the anchor holding them steady. To the enemy, it is mistaken for weakness. Her XO leans close. They're charging their primary weapons. Captain, orders. Ward's gaze doesn't flicker. She waits out in the black. The Dominion fleet prepares to strike. Plasma batteries hum with rising energy, glowing brighter until they look like miniature suns. Torpedo bays open, their payloads gleaming in the darkness. The void trembles with power. The wolves are ready. The prey, they believe, is cornered. Fleetmaster Karvik raises his clawed hand high, savoring the moment. Fire, a warning shot. Scar them. Let them see what awaits if they refuse to kneel. The flagship's cannons surge with light. A volley of plasma spears scream through the void, tearing across space and grazing the Valiant's hull in blinding flashes. Metal scorches. The human vessel rocks slightly under the impact. The Dominion fleet erupts in laughter. See how fragile they are. One commander crows. They shake already. Inside the Valiant, smoke curls faintly from the hull, where the plasma burned, but the ship holds. On the bridge, no one moves. No one panics. Ward watches the light fade across the void. Then, for the first time, she speaks. Her voice is calm, but it cuts sharper than any blade. Transmit this to the fleet. Fire again, you will not fire a third time. Her words echo through the silence of space. The Dominion officers freeze. Then, almost instantly, the laughter erupts once more. Arrogance blinds them. To their ears, her warning is nothing but a desperate bluff. Fleetmaster Karvik snarls, lowering his hand in command. All ships prepare to fire. The void glows with menace. Dozens of Dominion warships hover in a perfect ring around the ISS Valiant, their cannons burning brighter than stars. The silence between them is heavy, suffocating, broken only by the rising hum of weapons charging for the kill. In the center, the lone Terran vessel drifts like a shadow, motionless, silent, a single scarlet dot on enemy sensors. One ship, surrounded by 20. From the Dominion's perspective, the outcome is already written. On the bridge of the Dominion, flagship Iron Howl, Fleetmaster Karvik stands tall, his claws tapping against the tactical console. His fangs gleam in the shifting light of plasma reactors. Transmit to the humans. He orders. The comes crackle alive, his voice echoing like thunder across the Valiant's bridge. Terran ship, your arrogance insults the Dominion. We gave you a chance to kneel. You wasted it. Fire now, and we will leave nothing but debris to mark your failure. His officers snicker, their laughter cruel and sharp. To them, this is not war, it is sport. On the Valiant, silence reigns. Captain Elise Ward stands at the center of her bridge, arms folded behind her back. Her crew waits, their fingers tense over controls. Breaths held. The Dominion's words hang in the air, dripping with arrogance. Finally, Ward gives her reply. Not long, not loud, just a simple line spoken with icy calm. Tell them this: fire again, and you will not fire a third time. The comms officer transmits her words. For a moment, the void is silent once more. Then laughter, harsh, mocking, confident laughter ripples across Dominion channels, carried from ship to ship like wildfire. Do you hear her? One commander. The humans believe they can frighten us. One ship, against the Dominion, another laughs. Pathetic. Fleetmaster Karvik bares his teeth, amusement glinting in his eyes. Then let us silence their bluff. All ships prepare your full volley. Engines rumble. Cannons glow brighter, charging until the entire fleet shines like a constellation of blue suns. Missile bays open wide, filling the void with torpedoes primed for release. On the Valiant's bridge, tension sharpens to a blade's edge. Lights flicker. Warning signals flash as enemy targeting locks tighten. The XO leans close to Ward, voice low. Captain, they're readying everything. Ward's reply is soft, unwavering. Let them. Her crew exchange glances, each one steadying their breath. They know the ship's power. They know what waits beneath the silence. But they also know what 20 ships firing in unison can do if the timing is off. The enemy believes this silence is fear. They are wrong. It is precision. It is patience. Fleetmaster Karvik slams his clawed hand down. Fire. The void erupts. Dozens of plasma lances spear through the black, streaks of molten light cutting toward the Terran ship. Torpedoes blaze like falling stars, their engines screaming across the gulf. Space itself seems to burn. The Valiant does not move. The crew grips their consoles, eyes locked forward as the storm descends. The first volley slams past the hull, shaking the ship with concussive shockwaves. The second roars close, white-hot energy scraping against armor. The third direct impact. Fire crawls across the Valiant's flanks, plating scorched, alarms blaring. But the ship does not break. On the Dominion comes, laughter explodes once more. They hold still. One commander bellows. They are two, terrified to fight back. Fleetmaster Karvik leans forward, his eyes gleaming with triumph. Now, finish them. Full barrage. End it. The order ripples across the fleet. Every cannon, every launcher, every weapon spins to target the lone Terran battleship. The wolves are ready to tear their prey apart. But aboard the Valiant, Ward lowers her hands slowly. Her crew sees the signal, the one they've been waiting for. In silence, gunners arm their stations. Ammunition feeds lock into place. Mass drivers hum, their cores vibrating with lethal readiness. The storm is coming, but so is the response. The void blazed with fire. From 20 Dominion warships, a storm of plasma lances and torpedoes screamed toward the lone Terran battleship. The black of space glowed white, streaked with molten light and trails of burning ion fire. It was not a warning shot this time, it was annihilation. The ISS Valiant shook violently as the first impact struck. Armor scorched, shockwaves rattled her frame, alarms shrieked across her decks. Smoke hissed through ruptured panels, but the ship held, scarred yet unbroken. Inside the Dominion fleet, voices roared with triumph. They burn already. One more volley, and they're ash. The laughter was deafening across the coms, but on the Valiant's bridge, the silence was absolute. Captain Elise Ward's hand lowered, slow and deliberate. That was the signal. "Gunners," she said softly. "Broadside, fire." The Valiant roared. For a heartbeat, the void itself seemed to shudder. Then light. Not plasma, not missiles. Something older, something faster. The ship's broadside erupted in thunder, invisible in the vacuum but terrible in its silence. Hundreds of mass driver cannons discharged at once, unleashing a storm of solid tungsten slugs at near relativistic speed. No bright beams, no energy shimmer, just death moving faster than eyes could follow. Across the Dominion fleet, shields flared but too slowly. The first volley hit. A cruiser buckled in half, its armor punctured clean through. One slug tore through the bridge, the other carved through its reactor. The ship loomed into a fireball. Another Dominion destroyer lurched, its engines shredded. Its shields collapsed under the unrelenting hail of kinetic strikes. It shattered in silence. One by one, Dominion ships came apart, their hulls pierced like paper under a storm of invisible knives. On the Iron Howl, Fleetmaster Karvik's laughter died. Mid-breath his eyes widened as he watched 4 of his warships disintegrate in less than 10 seconds. "Impossible," he whispered. The Dominion fleet faltered. Their neat ring formation shattered as panic rippled through their ranks. On the Valiant, the bridge trembled under recoil, but the crew moved like a single living machine. Reload complete. The gunnery chief barked, targeting ready on next volley. Another shouted. Ward didn't hesitate. Fire again. Once more. The Valiant thundered. Another storm of invisible slugs streaked across the void. A battleship tried to angle its shields, but the rounds punched through at speed's energy. Barriers couldn't compensate for. The vessel cracked apart, venting flame and bodies into the void. Another Dominion frigate attempted to retreat, engines flaring desperately. It made it 3 seconds before its reactor detonated under the relentless kinetic assault. The Dominion fleet was in chaos. Shields are failing. One commander screamed, "They're not beams there, they're projectiles. They can't be stopped." Fleetmaster Karvik slammed his claws against his console, fury twisting his face. Hold. Formation. Overwhelm them with fire. But his orders were drowned in chaos. The Dominion wolves were no longer predators. They were prey caught in a storm they couldn't understand. On the Valiant, the gunnery chief grinned through smoke and alarms. "They never saw it coming, Captain." Ward's voice was steady, cold as steel. "They assumed silence was fear. Let's teach them what silence really means." The broadside fired again, and again. Each volley ripped another Dominion warship into glowing wreckage. The void, that had moments ago been lit by enemy fire, was now filled with burning debris fields. The shattered corpses of once proud warships, drifting like ashdot, the wolves had gathered. Now the pack was being slaughtered, but it was not over. On the far side of the battle, the massive Iron Howl turned its prow, its plasma cannons surging with renewed fury. Its escorts tightened formation, preparing a desperate counterstrike. Karvik leaned forward, eyes blazing with rage. "Terrans, you think one ship is enough? Then come let us see if you can withstand the Dominion's flagship." The battlefield went quiet for a breath. The Valiant's cannons reloaded, its crew bracing for the next wave. The storm had begun, but the true battle was still coming. The void was littered with ghosts. Burning fragments of Dominion warships drifted like floating tombstones, glowing embers of once proud fleets. The blackness of space shimmered with twisted metal, torn armor, and fire dancing across hull remnants. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant rumble of dying engines and the eerie hiss of venting airlocks. The ISS Valiant floated among them, scarred but untouched in its core. Its hull bore the blackened scars of direct hits, but every breach had been sealed, every system recalibrated. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, a well-oiled machine in the heart of destruction. On the bridge, Captain Elise Ward surveyed the wreckage field through the forward viewport. Her eyes narrowed, calculating, predicting. "They're regrouping," she said. The sensors confirmed it. The Dominion had not been annihilated. Shattered ships limped backward, engines sputtering, hulls patched on the fly. Survivors formed an uneven line, their flagship Iron Howl at the center, undamaged and glowering like a predator nursing a wounded pride. Ward's second in command, Lieutenant Rajan, leaned over her shoulder. "They'll strike again, Captain, and next time, they'll bring everything they have left." Ward's voice was calm, almost serene. "Then we'll remind them why one Terran ship is enough to change the course of a war." Far ahead, the Dominion flagship unfurled its shadow. The Iron Howl was a monolith of armor, bristling with weapons and lethal intent. Plasma cannons glowed, missile bays opened wide, and swarm drones swirled around the ship like angry hornets. Karvik's claws drummed on his command console. Rage burned in his chest, but so did calculation. He had underestimated one Terran ship. Never again. "They have destroyed our fleet, but the flagship still stands. Wipe them from space." The order rippled through the remaining ships. Engines roared to life, shields flared, and the Dominion regrouped. The survivors weren't just fleeing, they were preparing a calculated, merciless strike. On the Valiant, alarms rang as sensors tracked the approaching ships. The crew worked swiftly, recalibrating weapon systems, adjusting shields, plotting intercept trajectories. The wreckage of enemy ships spun lazily around them, presenting both a hazard and an opportunity. Ward's gaze hardened. "Use the debris," she ordered. "Let them navigate our graveyard." The crew nodded. Mass driver turrets angled, plasma cannons charged, drones deployed. Every remaining piece of the battlefield was turned into a weapon. The Dominion's advance was methodical. One by one, they moved into the debris field, unaware of the traps laid before them. Mines hidden in wreckage, motion-sensitive explosives, and automated drones waited. Each ship that entered too quickly would trigger a chain reaction, tearing their formations apart. On the bridge, the crew watched in tense anticipation as the Dominion's flagship prowled closer, oblivious to the hazards in its path. Ward's voice was calm, yet deadly. "Wait until they overcommit." Seconds stretched. The Iron Howl edged forward, confident and brash. Then, now, Ward snapped. The Valiant erupted. Automated mines detonated, sending fragments of metal spiraling into enemy shields. Mass drivers shredded hulls. Plasma beams lanced through gaps between wreckage, slicing engines and weapon arrays. Panic erupted in the Dominion fleet. Ships collided with debris, shields overloaded, and chaos spread like wildfire. The flagship's commander roared over the comms. Stop them now." But the Valiant had already vanished behind a drifting hull, repositioning for another strike. The humans weren't just surviving, they were hunting, in the wreckage field. Dominion survivors realized the terrifying truth. One ship, well handled, was capable of orchestrating the destruction of an entire fleet. They had underestimated, not just the humans' firepower, but their cunning, their strategy, their patience. Ward's voice came through the bridge speakers, calm, unyielding. "You thought this field was dangerous? It's home. The fleet froze. The humans weren't just fighting, they were rewriting the rules of engagement. The void had grown colder among the smoking ruins of their fleet. The Dominion survivors huddled like wounded predators, their formation ragged but disciplined. At the center loomed the Iron Howl, its plasma cannons gleaming with lethal intent. Every scarred surface of its hull radiated warning. It was the apex of Dominion engineering, and it thirsted for vengeance. On the Valiant, Captain Elise Ward watched through the forward viewport. Her crew held their breath, waiting, calculating. The wreckage field behind them was a deadly maze, but ahead lay the Iron Howl and its remaining escorts. The enemy wasn't fleeing. They were baiting the humans into a trap. Sensors report. All remaining ships are converging on our position, Lieutenant Rajan said, tension tightening his jaw. They're coordinated and angry. Ward's gaze didn't waver. Good, let them come. We'll show them patience is a weapon sharper than any cannon. The Dominion's strike began without warning. Engines flared, and the remaining cruisers and frigates surged forward in a perfect wedge. Plasma cannons roared, targeting arcs converging on the Valiant from every angle. Missiles streaked past wreckage, engines leaving glowing trails of death. On the Valiant, alarms screamed. Shields flared under plasma fire. Consoles blinked in warnings of incoming torpedoes. The bridge shook violently with the first impact, sending officers tumbling. Ward's voice was calm, but commanding. Brace. Divert all power to forward shields. Track every vector. We're not hiding, we're controlling this battlefield. The Dominion flagship Iron Howl advanced, its guns calibrated with deadly precision. Its drones swarmed the Valiant, attempting to disable navigation thrusters, sabotage engines, and breach hull integrity. The Iron Howl's commander let out a roar. Over the comes Terrans. Your ship is a toy. You will burn for your arrogance. Ward's reply was cold, measured, echoing through the coms. And yet, you follow our lead. The Dominion faltered. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But every officer on the Valiant noticed. The humans weren't just defending, they were shaping the battlefield. Every movement of the Valiant predicted the enemy's overreach, drawing them into traps they hadn't even realized existed. The first trap triggered. A frigate attempted a high-speed flank through a cluster of debris. Automated mines, previously undetectable, detonated. Hull plating shredded, engines ruptured, and the frigate disintegrated into glowing fragments. Shockwaves cascaded across the battlefield, pushing nearby vessels off course. Their wedge is breaking. The gunnery chief shouted, eyes wide. Another Dominion cruiser accelerated to compensate, only to sail too close to a drifting warship. Wreck. Its shields overloaded against residual plasma, cracking the hull. The mass of the Valiant's nearby debris became a weapon of inertia, tearing through engines and weapon arrays alike. The Dominion flagship growled, releasing a torrent of missiles in desperation. But the Valiant, moving like a ghost among floating wreckage, evaded every strike, reappearing behind a broken cruiser to unleash another volley of mass driver rounds. On the Dominion comes, panic began to creep into the orders. Hold formation. Focus fire on the human ship. Stop splitting. Target the engines. But the Valiant was everywhere at once, slipping through gaps, disappearing behind debris, and striking with precision. The Dominion had the firepower, but the humans had the battlefield and patience. They think destruction is strength, but strategy, timing, and patience, that's true power. The Iron Howl faltered, the wedge collapsing entirely as escorts blew apart in flames. The flagship's commander realized, too late, that they had underestimated not one ship, they had underestimated an entire philosophy of war. The void was alive with fire and shadow. Flashes of plasma lit the black canvas of space. Twisted wreckage of the Dominion fleet floated like tombstones, debris spinning slowly, casting ghostly reflections on the hull of the ISS Valiant. Yet amidst the ruin, one shape moved with terrifying intent. the Iron Howl. Its armor gleamed like molten steel, its guns glowing with lethal anticipation. Captain Elise Ward stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the flagship. Around her, the crew moved like synchronized clockwork, each operator anticipating the enemy's next move. The Valiant bore scars, but her heart still thundered with strength. "They're coming in for everything they have left," Lieutenant Rajan said, tension clear in his voice. "If we fail here," Ward's gaze was steel, "then we don't fail. Not now, not ever. Prepare for the gambit." The Dominion flagship surged forward. Its plasma cannons flared in a deadly rhythm. Missiles streaked past like falling stars, and drone swarms advanced with relentless precision. The wedge of survivors that remained flanked aggressively, attempting to box the Valiant in. Ward's hands hovered over the tactical console. "Let them think they've won. Let them think we're cornered." Then the crew braced. Sensors tracked the incoming assault, every vector, every acceleration. The Iron Howl fired first, unleashing a volley of plasma that seared across the void, exploding harmlessly against reinforced forward shields. Direct hit, but no damage. A young officer exclaimed. "Not a hit," Ward said. "Just a message." The Valiant danced through the wreckage, ghost-like. Mines detonated around, pursuing frigates, tearing holes in their formations. Mass driver rounds shredded engines from afar, each projectile striking faster than the eye could track. The Dominion forces were precise, but the humans were smarter, and then came the gambit. Ward activated the Valiant's hidden maneuvering thrusters, pushing the ship into a trajectory that seemed suicidal. A dive straight toward the center of the Dominion flagship's formation. Every sensor screamed collision. Every officer froze for a heartbeat. "Brace," Ward commanded. For a second time stretched. The void became a tunnel of fire and debris. The Dominion flagship's massive guns locked onto the Valiant, all hope of escape seeming lost. Missiles converged, plasma flares ignited, and then, at the final instant, the Valiant executed a precision thruster flip. It passed through the center of the formation not to collide, but to split it. The flagship and escorts were caught in the blast radius of their own scattered wreckage, forced to evade mines, debris, and each other. Chaos erupted like a supernova. The Valiant didn't fire a single shot, yet destruction followed. Frigates collided with drifted hulls. Plasma cannons overheated. Engines ruptured. The Iron Howl, massive and proud, was forced to retreat as its wedge collapsed into nothingness. On the bridge, Ward's voice was calm, almost serene. "Sometimes, the deadliest strike isn't one you make yourself. It's one you let the enemy walk into." The Dominion flagship's commander realized the truth too late. They had been outmaneuvered, outhought, and outclassed by one ship and by one species they had dismissed as insignificant. Rage, fear, and disbelief burned in equal measure. Ward's eyes scanned the battlefield, now littered with destroyed vessels. Silence reclaimed the void, broken only by the hiss of venting fuel and the distant groan of collapsing ships. The Terrans had won, not by firepower alone, but by intellect, patience, and cunning. The void was quiet, but the silence was heavy with the remnants of fire and shadow. Twisted hulls drifted like forgotten monuments, fragments of a once mighty Dominion fleet scattered across the black expanse. Glowing embers of plasma lingered on destroyed shields, reflecting off the scarred hull of the ISS Valiant. The ship floated as a sentinel amidst the ruin, battered but unbroken. A single beacon of Terran resilience. Captain Elise Ward stood on the bridge, surveying the aftermath. Her crew moved silently, tending to repairs and monitoring life support. Exhaust fumes from minor breaches hissed into the vacuum, but there was no panic. They had survived the impossible, and their calm efficiency reflected the unshakable discipline of a people forged in adversity. "Status report," Ward commanded. Lieutenant Rajan spoke first. The Dominion's remnants are retreating. Engines damaged, shields offline, morale shattered. They're fleeing for their survival. Ward's eyes narrowed on the fading blips on the sensor screens. Good. Let them carry the story of what one Terran ship can do. Let them tell the galaxy who underestimated us. Far ahead, the Iron Howl, once a symbol of Dominion supremacy, limped into the darkness. Its commander, a creature of rage and pride, watched as their remaining ships dispersed. For the first time in Dominion history, they had faced an opponent who could outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast the men. They had paid the price. Back on the Valiant, the bridge crew exchanged glances, exhaustion mingling with triumph. They had survived impossible odds, and in doing so, had rewritten the rules of engagement. One ship, one species, had stood against a fleet and emerged victorious. Ward turned to her crew. History doesn't remember those who surrender easily. It remembers those who stand, who think, who fight with every advantage the universe allows them. Today, we are the story the galaxy will tell. In the communication channels, scattered Dominion messages could still be intercepted. They were filled with disbelief, fear, and grudging respect. They had underestimated humans, thinking weakness could be measured by the size of a fleet rather than the resolve, strategy, and intelligence of its defenders. Outside, the wreckage field was still dangerous. Fires burned on drifting hulls. Sensors flickered with residual energy discharges. But the Valiant moved through it like a ghost, unharmed, untouchable. The humans did not merely survive, they dominated without prideful arrogance, using cunning, where others relied solely on brute force. A new voice broke the bridge silence. The communications officer. Captain, unidentified signals are emerging. Other species they've been watching. Ward's lips curved into a small smile. Then let them see, let them learn. One ship can change everything when it carries the weight of an entire species' courage. Through the viewport, distant lights flickered. Other civilizations, previously indifferent or dismissive, now paused to take note. The galaxy had heard the echoes of victory not from a fleet, but from one ship, piloted by a species they had underestimated for millennia. The ISS Valiant continued its course through the wreckage field, unbroken, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when courage, strategy, and intelligence converged. Behind them, the Dominion carried their lesson across the stars. One ship was enough to topple an empire. One species was enough to remind the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated.